This is a very quick rundown of RS3 combat, aimed at old school players who want the basics without needing to watch hour-long videos. This is the RS3 hit splat. It changes colours based on the type of damage you inflict, for example, red for melee, blue for mage, and green for ranged. The values are around 100 times higher than what you're used to, as players and enemies and everything has roughly 100 times more health. All weapons of all styles have a 4-tick attack speed, and are put into tiers that determine their accuracy and damage. This means, for example, that you can dual-wield scimitars and do the same damage as you would if you were to use battle axes, maces, daggers, etc., as long as they are the same tier. You will also never miss unless this number is less than 25%. Instead, your damage is scaled off of your accuracy. So with 50% accuracy, you would do 50% damage. There are 3 main types of abilities you need to know about in the game, with a few minor exceptions. They are ultimate abilities, threshold abilities, and basic abilities. When you use these is determined by your adrenaline bar, which you can think of as your special attack. Basic abilities do damage, and have a secondary effect, which can be a stun, a bleed, or healing you in return for doing damage. Minor little buffs, you can use these in orders, or you can let it play itself with Revolution. Threshold abilities do more damage, but consume and require some adrenaline amount. And last, ultimate abilities will either buff your character for a period of time, or do a very large amount of damage in return for consuming most, if not all, of the bar. For almost all combat in the game, you will use basic attacks to fill up your meter, ultimates once it is full, and thresholds during the time you are buffed, or when your ultimates are on cooldown. In high-end PvM, it becomes more complex with defensive abilities that either reduce or reflect damage, and specific ability orders and timings, but that's for another video. Combat functions largely the same outside the adrenaline system. Eating will not stop you from attacking, but will instead reduce your adrenaline by 10%. This is negated in the same way in old school by using food that would, instead of not stopping you from attacking, will instead not reduce your adrenaline when consumed, such as Saradomin brews. Prayers work largely the same, but instead of blocking full damage, they will only block 50% by default. So you will have to use items and abilities for a set period of time that will increase the effectiveness to survive some attacks, but for the most part they are still used in all combat to reduce incoming damage. You can also crit in this game, which will boost the damage number and make it bold. Unless you have gear that boosts damage, gains adrenaline, or heals you based on critical strikes, these are just a luck-based higher hit. Armour is split into 2 different types, power gear and tank gear, and a third all or hybrid which is rarely used. Power gear functions the same as the armour you know from old school. Tank gear, instead of giving accuracy and a bit of damage, gives extra health and minor damage reduction. Lastly, runes and arrows are not consumed on every attack when using mage or ranged. Instead, they are only consumed the first time you hit an enemy, or when you do not queue an ability. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Otherwise, stay tuned for more explanations.